Once upon a time, on a sunny farm called Meadow Patch, lived a very special cat. He was a fluffy orange cat named Fuzzy, and he wasn't just any cat. Fuzzy was a farmer. He wore a tiny straw hat and absolutely loved taking care of the farm's vegetables. His favorite job was watering all the plants with his little watering can. Every morning, without fail, Fuzzy would stroll through the garden, checking on his precious crops. He'd inspect the neat rows of bright orange carrots, the plump red tomatoes glistening in the sun, the crispy green lettuce, and the tall stalks of sweet corn. He was so proud of his garden. But one morning, Fuzzy walked into the garden and stopped in his tracks. His whiskers twitched. He gasped, "Hey, something's missing." He looked closer. The carrots had tiny bite marks all over them. Several of his best tomatoes were completely gone, and the lettuce leaves looked like someone had been nibbling on them all night long. "Oh dear," Fuzzy said, adjusting his straw hat. "It looks like someone is eating the crops." Now, Fuzzy could have gotten very upset. He could have stomped his paws and been a grumpy cat all day. But not Fuzzy. He saw a mystery, and he loved a good mystery. He decided right then and there to become a detective and solve the case of the missing vegetables. His investigation began immediately. He put on his thinking cap. He just tilted his straw hat and followed a trail of small footprints near the carrot patch. Fuzzy murmured to himself, examining them closely. "These aren't big enough for a fox, and they're too small for a raccoon." Next, he went over to the lettuce patch. There, he found tiny green crumbs scattered on the ground. "Interesting," he whispered, taking out his little notebook and a pencil. He jotted down his findings, feeling like a real detective on a very important case. As he continued his search, he spotted his friend Benny the bunny near the old red barn, munching happily on some clover. "Benny," Fuzzy called out, walking over. "Have you seen anyone sneaking into the garden at night?" he asked in a kind voice, not wanting to sound accusatory. Benny the bunny shook his head, his long ears flopping. "Nope, not me, Fuzzy. I only eat clover, I promise," he said honestly. Fuzzy believed him. Just as he was about to thank Benny and continue his search, he heard a soft rustling sound coming from behind a thick berry bush nearby. Fuzzy tiptoed closer, his curiosity piqued. He gently parted the leaves, and what he saw surprised him. Out popped a small, spiky creature, and right behind her were three even smaller, tinier versions of herself. It was Holly the hedgehog and her little babies. They all looked very nervous and very, very hungry. Holly looked up at Fuzzy with wide, worried eyes. "I'm so sorry," she squeaked in a tiny voice. "The forest has been so dry lately, and I couldn't find enough food for my babies. We were just so hungry." Fuzzy's heart instantly softened. He looked from the hungry mother to her little Hogults, and he understood. "Oh," he said gently, his voice full of compassion. "So, that explains the missing vegetables." All his frustration melted away, replaced by a warm feeling of empathy. Instead of being angry, Fuzzy had a wonderful idea, a kind solution. He wasn't just a farmer. He was a friend to all the creatures on Meadow Patch. He decided to build a special, small garden right at the edge of the farm, away from his main crops. Filled it with safe and tasty vegetables that hedgehogs love. This way, Fuzzy smiled, looking at Holly and her family. Everyone has enough to eat. Holly's eyes sparkled with gratitude. "Oh, thank you, Fuzzy. Thank you so much," she whispered, her heart full. The very next morning, Fuzzy woke up and went to check his garden, as usual. To his delight, all his crops were safe and sound. The carrots were untouched, the tomatoes were still on their vines, and the lettuce was perfectly whole. The hedgehogs had their very own garden to feast in, and the entire farm felt peaceful and balanced. Fuzzy stood in his garden, adjusted his straw hat proudly, and smiled. "Farming isn't just about growing food," he said to a friendly ladybug crawling on a leaf. "It's about caring for others too." And from that day on, Meadow Patch Farm was happier and more harmonious than ever before, all thanks to a kind farmer cat named Fuzzy.